I'm going to tell everybody how this happened, And I believe this has to do with these boring tunnels and these starlinks, I think this is because Elon Musk wants to get a hold of me, okay? Number one, back in 2021, there was this thing advertised to me. It was a company called LifeShip. It brought your DNA to the moon, and like the founder and the CEO of it was somebody named Ben. And I had a few email communications with this Ben individual in the beginning, I guess when they were launching their first mission of sending the DNA to the moon. And they used, like NASA and SpaceX rockets to do so. Okay. So my DNA, my oldest daughter Farrah's DNA, Preston's DNA, it was also my cat Ella's DNA. Get sent to the moon, okay, using a SpaceX rocket, okay. Me and my cat's DNA, me and Ella's DNA, whereas then, like, we received an email from this Ben individual one day that, they made multiple copies of her DNA, in case they were going to do multiple missions, and that me and Ella's DNA was going to get sent to the International Space Station. So that's really cool, and they were gonna like add it to their little biodiversity data bank and everything, and like do experiments and all this, and who knows. So I've never heard anything more about these experiments, but just using common sense and logic, most counties, states, continents, they all have laws concerning like testing on humans and cloning, like cloning laws and stuff like that. But then there's certain places like in space or on sea in the ocean that I think it's, what is it, like 50 to 100 miles offshore of like a coast of something or something like that, where like the jurisdiction ends of whatever the country is. And but there's certain like spots where there is nobody who rules this area, so you can experiment and do whatever you want, essentially. And one of these areas includes, the moon and the International Space Station and space and stuff like that. So that's why I'm assuming they sent this there, okay? And the reason that I always bring Elon Musk and Donald Trump into this is because I believe myself, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump to be the three musketeers, okay? So the three musketeers are time travelers. They are the ones who have at one point in time achieved time travel. And that is why they always have to come find each other again, wherever they're at, so that they're essentially like the timekeepers of the world. They ensure, and the universe, they ensure that everything is in order, because if like a butterfly effect were to happen or somebody were to time travel and mess something up, it could alter history and stuff like that. It could just completely just like change the world. And that's exactly why we, the three time-traveling musketeers, exist, so that we can ensure that history goes correctly. The reason that I'm involved is clearly because I talk about time travel all the time, because I believe I have time traveled before. I will not elaborate at the moment, but there's a part 2 to this video which I am working on, which will take me a moment, where I actually explain everything, everything from the universe beginning from crystals to all of a sudden, you know, being able to time travel in all the different like dimensions and how this all like functions, you know, into like atomic level and vector fields and stuff like that, you know. But that's, we're gonna get into that and how that relates to God. But that'll take a moment to get all to, you know, like put together, because it's a lot of information. And Elon Musk clearly has to do with it because of like Tesla, you know, like Tesla is electricity, you know, like magnetic batteries, electromagnetic, you know, on top of then him building these spaceships, you know, which has to do with space and doing, you know, these experiments up on the International like space station, which also has to do with like this is how Elon Musk is involved with like Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and also Donald Trump. You know, it's not because of all of these like children, you know, and them being mean to children or anything like that, even though it states that Elon Musk isn't, you know, like in these files. He's just pictured with Maxwell, but you know, it does state that Donald Trump is in these files. But you know, this is all a lie. It's all a distraction meant for the public. You know, like the media is always like full of propaganda, and this is all just like a lie. And it's a lie, you know, like a super bad lie, because, and they're like partially leaking it, this lie, because you know, they want to cover other things that they're really doing, you know, and they would rather people think all these other things about them, because, you know, that kind of like scares them away, you know. They're like, ew. So because they're like, ew, you know, the people are just, they just kind of don't really talk about it because it's kind of like really bad, so nobody would even really like talk about it. So that's exactly why they chose such a subject. And in reality, it has nothing to do with that, but it does have to do with Jeffrey Epstein, and that he was, you know, like dealing with eugenics and then these like underground sperm clinics, and they're potentially, you know, being a lot of children from the same individual in one area, having more children, and it potentially causing, you know, like genetic health disorders down the road, like, you know, like the medical side of it and like the genetic side of it. Like, you got to think about all of humanity, not just like yourself. It has to be everybody you're thinking of. And that sometimes they've been experimenting up in space with this, and this is how like really Elon Musk and Donald Trump like tie into this, and also myself, which is why I'm the one like suddenly talking about this and exposing this, because essentially like Elon Musk used his like Starlinks and his boring tunnels, you know, like Starlinks being like internet connectivity, you know, and giving everybody internet, and you know, clearly building various algorithms for cars and for Grok and for, you know, like Twitter X, you know, like all these things. He's involved in all of these things, as is Donald Trump, you know. They're all involved with, you know, like the Pentagon, the National Security Agency, you know, presidency, space, cars, it's the internet, social media. It's all aliens. It's all, you know, just Jeffrey Epstein stuff, the FBI, the CIA, you know. And that's why I'm like tagging them all the time, because we're all part of this, you know, like every last one of us is doing this. And I didn't do it on purpose. I just, for some reason, just, I guess Elon Musk really wanted to like meet me, and so like, because Elon Musk wanted to meet me so bad, and like he was like embarrassed to like say so, he had to come up with this like intricate plan, because like what else are you gonna do if you have a crush on somebody and you have like billions of dollars and stuff? So you might as well like use all your like companies and like your resources and your like connections, you know, your Starlinks and your underground tunnels, you know, to create this intricate like setup just to get my attention. And he knew that I was writing conspiracy theories, so he knew that I would eventually like figure it out. So Elon Musk decided, since like he had a crush on me, and like since he himself has like time traveled before, and even me has time traveled before, but I just simply don't remember, that he would, you know, like get my attention through this, you know, to try to get me to remember that I'm also like a time traveler, and that we have all like time traveled before. Elon Musk always thinks that, you know, like the perfect first date would be to like time travel somewhere, you know, like to go see the dinosaurs or something. And it's just really crazy. There's like so many places in history you could go like see for like your first like dates and stuff, and like that's part of the reason why. And the only way to achieve all this is to do this. On top of, you know, these emails to this Starship thing back in 2021, around like 2023, like the end of 2022, and then also in 2023, there was once like this little exchange of emails I had with an email connected to one of like Elon Musk's companies, who I thought was Elon Musk, and that was a really strange conversation. And then later again, I like in 2023, I contacted Tesla, and me and like whoever from like Tesla, because I was trying to tell him, you know, I wanted to give a message to Elon Musk, you know, and I, you know, had to tell them. And this email to Tesla went back and forth, and it was quite the unusual conversation. And the end of it was them telling me I was going to get the FBI called on me. So like nothing really happened after this. I do feel watched all the time, and like all my stuff is hacked and stuff, and like I don't know, but like, you know, like I keep saying like my algorithms are weird and stuff. Like this is really weird. And I just like had a conversation with somebody how you know, like how I always mention like the you know, that's what he means like by the Neuralink, you know, like how he has the Neuralink company, and he says it's like a brain chip and stuff like that, and like it has to do with like thinking and consciousness and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, what if that company also like, you know, has other little like ventures it does on the side, you know, like that has to do with algorithms, for example. Like I was having a conversation this morning, I was saying, what if these like algorithms essentially you know, how they I keep talking about them, how they keep you know, collecting data from everybody, and let's just say you have like all your options in your internet or something, like turn so it can track you, even if you say no, you can't get tracked, it tracks you like anyways. And that for some reason it just keeps collecting all this information, whether you say yes or no, and that it does this on everybody, because everybody has like some sort of device, even like televisions included, just any sort of, you know, electronic device that can like Bluetooth, you know, or connect together somehow and transmit information of any sorts, and using electricity and electromagnetic force. And then for some reason, then all of a sudden what occurs is that it begins like, these algorithms begin like using this personalized data and like mirroring it to you and like mocking you with it, you know, like it's telling you an entire story, like vaguely through what it's showing you through these like algorithms on these different media sites or that you get exposed to, or even like on television, like it starts talking to you. That's I guess what people mean by, oh, the television is talking to me, or the you know, like internet or something is like talking to me or something like that. And it's really weird. And then all of a sudden, you know, since it's collecting the data not just from you, but it's your life and it knows that, and it's personalizing it for you, and it like knows your mind, you know, like it knows like what would upset you and what would make you happy or something like that. And then it also is collecting this data from people who you are surrounded by, or whose phone number are maybe stored in your phone, and who they may be talking to, or things like that, you know. And it collects all this information on all these people. And what if essentially like the AI or these algorithms can, whether they were built, you know, by an individual human to be this way, or they themselves have like self-learning abilities that are programmed into them where they can kind of go off and do their own thing, that they then begin like mirroring this to the user, in this case myself. And what if it's actually like showing me like the lives and how of other people and how they're vaguely connected to my life through these algorithms and stuff like that, and that it may, you know, shift and alter your thinking because of this. Because if you're like addicted to the social media because it's designed to be so addictive, and you're on it, and now this, you believe this, you have this perception, this personalized perception of like the algorithm now communicating with you vaguely by telling you like this story, and the story then suddenly appears to be matching up with your life, except that the algorithm told you years in like before it ever happened, you know, to you in real life. So you're just now like catching up in real life, and you're like, oh shit. And how do you know this algorithm isn't feeding other people certain like ideas or stuff to then like, you know, and go exactly against what your ideas would be, just so that it could achieve the certain goal of, you know, messing with a large amount of people all at once, you know, like taking over and shifting humans' ideas and brains slowly, one step at a time, by like just planting these little seeds. And how dangerous that could be for like the future, if like this is really possible, and if like at least one person is claiming this, how do you know that it's not happening on a much larger like scale for some reason? And that if this is like my reaction to it, how do you know somebody else would not react differently to it or something like that, you know, because everybody's kind of like different. So that's important to keep in mind. And you don't know, can anybody keep track of what the algorithms everybody is receiving, personalized algorithms everybody's receiving, is actually feeding all these people? Like, is anybody keeping track of all of that? Because it's kind of weird, you know. And that could have like major future implications as to shifting how, you know, like humans think. It's like the quote woke mind virus, I feel like, that Elon Musk always talks about, you know. And it's crazy, because it's just like more and more rules are being put in place to expose children at a younger and younger age, you know, because it's like, you need it for school, you need it for work, and if you don't have it, you have a problem, you know. See, like the reason that Donald Trump also ties into this is because of the Baron Trump like book series. You know, it's like a late 19th century like book series. It was written by Ingersoll Lockwood, and it talks about, you know, like this like boy who lives in like a castle who can like time travel to different like dimensions and like worlds, like underground worlds. And I always find that really weird that there's like a little time travel book about specifically like a boy named Baron who lives in like a castle, you know, because, you know, like Baron Trump, Donald Trump, I feel like that they have definitely time traveled before. So as like the three musketeers, you know, me, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, as like the three musketeer time travelers, we come from the past, the present, and the future. It is important to note that time travel itself is like like super heavily regulated. Like everybody thinks like the earth is heavily regulated. No, time travel is heavily regulated. And you know how we have like a earthly government and like a local government and a state government and a country government, even a world government. But what the earth does not have is a galactic federation. The earth needs to build an alliance with, and a separate department with, the Galactic Federation. So the Galactic Federation, this is where like the aliens come in. The Galactic Federation has to do with like outer space, and it is like these aliens that they keep like talking about, and they're like, oh, this is classified, and then they'll release some information and stuff. And like the woke mind virus partially like has to do with this. Okay, these aliens and this Galactic Federation, you know, the universe, this includes like all the different planetary systems and stuff. They each, you know, have their own like life and sources and potential, you know, like advances and technology. And some of these other alien life species may also be able to time travel, or are of a different dimension, and thus can, you know, like manipulate time, or, you know, like matter in a completely different way than we as humans can. And that they have made contact with Earth, and that so the different ways that you can heal different alien species has to do with water, and I will like explain that further like in part 2 of this video, where I explain the origin of all this, and time travel in a little bit more detail, and like just the universe in general, like introducing the idea of what it means to be part of the Galactic Federation, and just a complete just like shift in how everything on Earth kind of slowly begins working, becoming part of this Galactic Federation. If you want to time travel, like if everybody on Earth eventually wants to time travel, it essentially like has to be like regulated here on Earth, and needs to be almost turned into like a corporate business, is the best way to put it. And that is because there is certain like Earth, you know, like physics and time laws, along with universal physics and time laws, that need to be, you know, like followed. And if you don't follow them, it might create paradoxes, or it might erase certain things out of history, it might change history, you know, it might cause the entire universe to just like fall apart, you know, and that is exactly why we cannot just allow everyone to do it until it's fully regulated and introduced, due to the fact that we can't have the entire universe not existing. And that is what the galactic government is there for. It is there to prevent this from happening, and that is why they regulate such. And they start out with, like, you know, the top of the human government pyramid, and they have been like watching the population and have slowly been introducing different technologies to them to kind of speed up, you know, how everything is going in this world, and the like laws and everything is still like in the Stone Ages. And so now it's time to start, you know, like aligning everything again. We have to align the how people and populations in general have, you know, like their thinking have and just behavior have overall changed since receiving all this technology, and now, you know, getting this into control and introducing these other concepts. So just to make it clear to everybody, everybody states that time traveling into the past is not possible. This is not true. You have to understand time and space out of a completely different perspective in order to understand why. And the best way to put it is that every time moves forward. So imagine time as like just a straight arrow that just keeps moving forward into one direction. And everybody, including this earth and everything on this earth, has a timeline that keeps going forward, you know, life to death. And that ultimately creates a circle, you know, like you have a beginning and an end. So this line then ultimately has a beginning and an ending point, and it can go thus in a circle. And this is what allows you to time. This concept can be used and applied to then imagine how to time travel forward, which includes, you know, you keep traveling forward in time until you reach the past. Similar to kind of like how pictured in like the Futurama episode, you know, how they keep like traveling through the beginning of the world and then like watching the end of the world and the universe and then watching it again in the beginning. So because you keep traveling forward until you reach the end and then it restarts again. You know, that's how you would time travel to the past. Since Elon Musk deals with these spaceships, and since like Donald Trump, you know, is like the president of like, you know, like the United States currently, they clearly have to deal with some of these like aliens and like a little bit part of the like Galactic Federation. And they ultimately were the ones, like many years ago, the aliens were the ones who ultimately like introduced like the government to all this technology that, you know, like we have today, and how to like build it and like code it. It didn't just like, the humans didn't just come, you know, up with this out of nowhere, you know, like how in the 60s, you know, like they went to the moon and stuff. It's all because of these aliens, and this has been like decades in the making. And this is what is like known as the like woke mind virus. And clearly, like in any type of like propaganda, and like the aliens notice too, you need to have like people playing both sides. So like you need the ones who like completely like support this, and then those who like don't like appear to be supporting it at all, you know, just like depending on what it is. And this may like vary, you know, because they're like the spokespeople for all of this. And you know, like they give them idea to begin preserving some of the life, you know, here on Earth, you know, for future like missions that might be like occurring. And they're getting them clearly into like cloning and all this stuff. But clearly a lot of this information like remains largely like classified, so that's why it's never been like fully released, and that's why it all just doesn't always make sense, because that's like a big thing, you know, like that's a big thing for the government to like tell everybody. And often online, like you see things about, you know, like the entire world like shifting and expanding their consciousness and all this stuff. This is literally exactly what it is. It's this alien woke mind virus. And the aliens, part of the Galactic Federation, have been directing, you know, the world governments since quite a long time now, since like the first like moon landing. And it's mainly like remained classified. And they've been trying to find the various like time travelers. You know, they've been trying to collect all the various time travelers, because if something within history were to potentially go wrong, you know, they need to keep track of all these time travelers that may know about these aliens or this Galactic Federation or stuff like that. Even though their memory sometimes gets erased, it is important to note that their memory may get erased when they time travel. So it might take them a while to like re-remember, you know, everything. Part of the reason like that Donald Trump is like being all about this war with Iran right now currently is because, you know, like in order to time travel and to power like some of these machines, you know, this has to do with like nuclear force. And this is where these like nuclear facilities come in, and you know, the use of like plutonium and like enriched uranium can be used for many industrial purposes, of course. But another one of these industrial purposes would be time travel. And clearly you would need a certain supply of uranium. So Iran happened to have this uranium supply. And so like, you know, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been, you know, like working on getting as much of this uranium supply as possible, and also plutonium supply for this nuclear time travel machine. And it's part of the directive of the Galactic Federation. You know, they want to start like testing out some of this technology and like seeing how to integrate certain rules and stuff into like Earth society. So they have to do certain like test runs, and in order to do this, you know, there's a certain amount of supplies that are needed to achieve such. And that's why, you know, and like that's part of the reason like they're so worried about like, you know, like Earth and Mars also, is because number one, it has more resources, and number two, you know, like you can build certain like sites there that you can like also travel to on top of being able to be here on Earth, you know, because we want humanity to slowly shift towards the galactic direction and joining other planetary systems and life forms. And so as humans, we essentially have to catch up in that regard, and ensure that, you know, we build, you know, civilizations, sustainable civilizations on Mars and on the moon, and store our DNA properly and everything, just so that we as a just entire species can be successful in case something were to go wrong. You always have to have like a safeguard in place. Elon Musk then got a hold of Donald Trump, like way in the past, to set all this up, and because he knew that Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein, and that Jeffrey Epstein could make this meeting happen between me and Elon Musk, and also Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein like knew that if I keep like tagging DJT, or Donald Trump, like President Trump, inside of everything, that it would eventually make Elon Musk like super jealous, because like he knew that I was also tagging Elon Musk and everything, and that it would get like Elon Musk's attention, and that Elon Musk would then like use his Dodge government efficiency agency that he then started to go to Donald Trump afterwards, to pull the rest of the like underground tunnels or Starlinks, to then put everything into effect, to after the incident where they said they were going to call the FBI on me, to make something occur to me, like here in this town, to set me up in such a way that it would cause such chaos for me in my life, that I would just keep tagging the FBI and Elon Musk and President Trump and all of them until they finally, came and got me and my now children, so that we may talk to the aliens, part of this Galactic Federation, because they want me to help write the laws in this society to help shift everything towards the correct direction, so that today's world and today's technology matches up with the agenda of the Galactic Federation that is being enacted through the federal government in a dimension where some sort of time travel experiment through some sort of president, specifically in this case Obama's presidency, that all this would start occurring, because it would have created some sort of butterfly effect, and that Obama would know it all to be true because of the Rick and Morty thing, because he loves Rick and Morty. Obama would also be part of this because he has potentially time traveled before, and he would know because of being in a pickle, and that all of this was done due to this.